Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I thought I'd do another vlog. Haven't done one of those in a little while, so let's talk about various different things, shall we? Cabbages and kings. Let's start by talking about packs and the packs coverage. So, a lot of it's out. Some of it is still to be done. I have kept stuff that's kind of not time sensitive to the side, so I'm holding on to things like the WildStar footage. I'm holding on to things like the contrast footage because those games are certainly not out yet, so there's plenty of time to get that stuff together, so it's not really been a priority. I've been trying to mix things up on the channel to make sure that everybody gets what they want. I think the last thing you want is like 2 weeks of pack stuff. If you're not interested in the pack stuff, then you have no reason to visit the channel for 2 weeks, which is not ideal, so I've been mixing it up a little bit. Gotta say, I'm pretty damn happy with how things have gone. So we took your advice and we built the coverage around that, and it seems like that did the trick. Yeah, you guys have responded a lot better to the stuff that we have brought you. There's been some surprising successes. Just the fact that our impressions of Batman got almost 200,000 views, even though it had no actual gameplay footage whatsoever, indicates that, yes, you were not lying when you said we're more interested in your opinion than we are in direct feed. The interviews have done okay. I don't necessarily expect interviews to ever do amazingly well because I know they're not as interesting for a lot of people. But I think the fact that we've got interviews that are hitting like 60 to 80,000 views is actually kind of ridiculous compared to almost everybody else on YouTube, or indeed just in terms of gaming interviews on popular websites. That is a really big number, a scary amount. So the positive thing to take away from this is that we have a significant chunk of our subscriber base that will actually engage with interview content, whereas with most channels that is not the case. So that to me is mind-blowing. It's really cool. I'm very happy about that. So yeah, there's still stuff to come, but I think that it worked out pretty well, and we'll most likely be doing this stuff in future. Some have asked me whether we intend to turn up to PAX following some organizations pulling out of the event over concerns regarding the Dick Wolves controversy and the comments that one of the Penny Arcade writers made about transsexuals. After discussing it with all the staff, we believe that it would not be right to pull out of that event. It's certainly an event that costs us quite a bit of money to go to. Would be lucky if we break even when it comes to the coverage, but we feel it's very valuable, both from the perspective of a content creator, as well as someone that needs to make contact. Most importantly, though, it's an opportunity for an awful lot of smaller developers to actually get the airtime they deserve, which they might not necessarily get in other environments. We feel that we've had the ability to help a huge number of independent developers as a result of events like PAX, and we don't feel that refusing to cover or show up to the event would be useful to our viewers or helpful or fair to the developers that actually exhibit their games at PAX. So we will be continuing to go for the foreseeable future. Speaking of events, there are a couple on the horizon, not too many, but I will be heading in the direction of a certain expo. Next Friday, I will be going up to Durham in North Carolina in order to participate in the Escapist Expo 2013. Yes, that's the Escapist that hosts Zero Punctuation as well as the Gymquisition. I'll be heading up there to participate in 3 panels, one of which is about successfully starting a gaming YouTube channel, something I've spoken about an awful lot. We've also got a panel called The Rise of Streaming, as well as how to create an online cult following. Should be quite amusing. That one has myself and Yahtzee on the panel alongside others, so I'm looking forward to that one. That could be quite amusing. So if you do wish to go to the event, it's $20 a day or $40 for a 3-day pass for the expo, and it's in Durham, North Carolina. There are still passes available for that one, so that should be quite a bit of fun. I'll, of course, be hanging around. If you want to talk, if you want photo, autograph, whatever, then we can totally do that as well. So those of you who didn't get to go to PAX and see the panel, this might be a cool opportunity to come along and say hi. I intend to mostly be chilling out for this one. I'm not going to be doing a huge amount of coverage. It is more of a fan expo than it is certainly a trade show, so I think it should be a lot of fun for everybody concerned. I will also be doing a little bit of StarCraft over the next couple of months. I'll be headed out to a live event at some point this year. I can't talk about it yet. Hopefully I'll be able to discuss it soon. I'll also be doing a little bit of casting for Ace Team Story Cup, and one of those events will be on Sunday at 1 p.m. EDT, which is going to be a cast of Millennium versus Mouse Sports. Should be a good Best of 9 team series, and that'll be going on over at twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit, with the VODs being uploaded on youtube.com/TotalBiscuit for you to enjoy if you happen to miss the live show. Speaking of live shows, I will be putting on my subscriber Q&A, which I do every month. The guys that subscribe over at my Twitch channel, which is a $5 a month optional subscription, which is currently very much helping to support Axiom Esports, which is a very expensive thing indeed to run. They get to ask questions and everybody gets to watch. So that will be going on Saturday. I will be doing that at 1 p.m. EDT, which I think is a pretty reasonable time. That shouldn't be too difficult for our viewers to watch. It may screw over the Australians, and I'm sorry about that. There's not really a way that we can avoid that, but the Europeans and the Americans should be absolutely fine there. Many have asked about more Hearthstone streams. The first couple I did were ridiculously successful. We actually peaked at about 20,000 concurrent viewers, which was absurd, by the way, for the first one. So I will be doing that every so often. I don't want to do it too much. I'm not honestly much of a streamer, and obviously it's something that takes up an awful lot of time as well, so I prefer to focus on things that everyone on the channel can enjoy as opposed to those that tune into the live shows only, but I will do a little bit more. You guys seem to like it. As regards to the Hearthstone content, I'm slowing down on it a little bit because I'm doing Terraria as well, and I don't really want to saturate the channel with a bunch of Let's Play-ish kind of stuff. I've maintained time and again that I don't believe you can Let's Play a competitive multiplayer game, and those who keep asking for the differentiation, it's really down to who's doing the work, yeah? With a single-player game, when you Let's Play a single-player game, a lot of that work is being done by the game, through the scripted events, through the voice acting and the set pieces there. In a competitive game, it's pretty much all you and your opponent. You are the guys who are doing the work there. The game certainly cannot exist without you and is different every time as a result of you, which is not the case in most single-player titles, which is why I believe you cannot Let's Play a competitive multiplayer game. It's all commentaries, and it's also why I have to say I respect COD commentators quite a bit more than your average sort of run-of-the-mill Let's Player. But I don't really want to get into this controversy again. You know that I don't like Let's Playing all that much unless it's done very, very well. We indulge in a small amount of it on this channel in the form of Terraria, but that really is about it. I don't really want to exploit single-player games. I dislike the idea of playing through a single-player game as soon as it comes out to try and make as much money as possible. I feel it's, in most circumstances, disrespectful to the game because there's no way you could possibly know how to play it properly or well, or how to properly explain it and show off all of its nuance to the viewers. That's something that you should reserve for when you've actually beaten the game at least once, so you know what you're doing, and you can actually give some really interesting information and gameplay scenarios to people. You want examples of that? Well, there's plenty over at the SA forums. I'd particularly recommend that you look up Chip Cheesum's Let's Play of Metal Gear Rising. It is so good. That is how a Let's Play should be done. It is incredibly good. He is a master of that game, and it is a joy to watch. Alright, well, off that subject and on to something else, and that would be the idea of early access. Something came up a couple of days ago as part of an esports discussion, something entirely unrelated, but I felt that it deserved a little bit more time, and there were a lot of mentions in the discussion thread surrounding that topic that they would like to hear more about my opinions on early access. Now, I have been someone that has stuck for years to the old axiom that beta is beta, and as a direct result, you should treat it that way. If something is labeled a beta product, then as far as I'm concerned, it is not immune to criticism, but you have to take into account that it is in beta and this stuff is subject to change. That's in fact a very good time to actually level constructive criticism. I love to do that. It's what I used to do with World of Warcraft. I made video after video after video where I would try and pick fault with things and suggest ways for things to be improved, and I think I keep doing that, especially as part of the Alpha Strike series. But in doing that, you must also balance the criticism with the idea that this stuff is very clearly not done yet. There is nothing that annoys me or makes me depressed like reading a bunch of comments and say, "Oh, this looks terrible." Oh, it's so depressing. It really is. Come on, guys. You know better than this. I've been trying to push developers and publishers for years to give people earlier access to games because I'm saying, look, gamers can be trusted. They know the difference between a final product and an alpha build. But more and more I'm finding that that's actually not the case, which is really bad for me. This is my business. I try and get early access to these things so that I can show them to you. But if I'm in a situation where they're going to turn around and say, no, your viewers can't be trusted with it, then I'm in a bit of a bind there, aren't I? So that's definitely not good at all. However, Lately, it seems like we're moving towards a business model whereby it is okay to sell something that is unfinished, yeah, and they do that via the Early Access program. There's an entire section of Steam dedicated to this very idea. Over the last few days, we've had several games released in this particular category. Top sellers include Castle Story, Planetary Annihilation, State of Decay, as well as Goddess. It seems like there are several early access games being released every single week. So, how acceptable is it to release part of your game this way? Well, I am going to say the same thing that I've said before. If it is labeled early access or beta, then you kind of discard any complaint that you could have about it being unfinished and possibly not as good as it should be. If you chose to indulge, if you chose to engage in the early access business model by giving it your money, then you have to accept that you may run into things that you don't like and are clearly not finished. This seems obvious, but apparently it isn't, and that disturbs me quite a bit. The problem that I have with early access is just how much information is given to the people that are buying into it. I do not feel that a lot of the descriptions are sufficient. Let's take an example, shall we? So, this one just came up on Steam. It's called Damned. I do not wish to damn this particular title. I'm just giving it as an example. This is what the developers say. There's a little box on every early access game that is colored blue that gives information about what state the game is in. This is what they said. We want you helping us design and develop Damned. You'll have a lot of fun times scaring your friends or being scared by them. You'll be helping us find bugs and glitches, including the bizarre and funny ones. You'll be able to feel the game and contribute with your thoughts and suggestions. Join the Damned community. Well, for one thing, that's more of a little piece of sales information than it actually is useful info about what state the game is in. That tells me nothing. Telling me the game has bugs is like saying this game is on PC. Every game on PC seems to have bugs to a greater or lesser extent. This is not unusual. I want to know what state this is in. Is this alpha? Is this beta? How far away is this from release? We just don't know. It doesn't tell you that. It tells you the release date of the early access version, not the planned final release date. How much content is missing? What am I buying into here? You know, at least Goddess was honest enough to say exactly what was missing. It had a text file in the game that told you exactly what wasn't there, and it said, this is 40% complete. They were open and honest about it, and I'm okay with that. But then, there's plenty of games where they're not. You know, example being Damned, where that description is just not good enough. It really is not. I don't know what I'm buying into here. And it's been muddied, in particular, by the release of something like State of Decay, which is not an unfinished game, it's an unfinished port, which is entirely different. State of Decay came out on Xbox. This is the initial PC release. It only supports the controller. It's coming out officially later this year. What I will say is that State of Decay did a phenomenal job of explaining what was going on. Their description is several paragraphs in length, and it describes pretty well what's wrong with it. Admittedly, it would be nice to know a few other things, like the fact that the performance isn't optimized yet, there's still some fairly significant texture pop-in, admittedly nowhere near as bad as the 360 version. So, it's great that they did that, but it is also very strange for something like this to be on early access, because it is a game that's already done. It's just, they put the port on early access instead, which is kind of odd to say the least. Another thing about State of Decay, by the way, is that they've done a fantastic job of keeping updates and very detailed patch notes written on that page. There are 2 updates in 3 days, in fact, with all sorts of very useful info. So I think the problem really comes down to the idea that developers are given a little bit too much freedom with their early access pages. I want to see a standardized set of information. I want Valve to enforce it properly. I want them to make sure that devs are being completely open and honest about the state of their game. I think if they're able to do that, then early access is absolutely fine. Now, that gets onto the subject of beta. And I've heard a lot of people say, you cannot be in beta once you start charging money. I fundamentally disagree. And the reason I disagree is that I feel the label of beta should be a turnoff. It should be a warning label. It should be saying, this clearly ain't done. The problem is a lot of people have stopped treating it that way. And that boggles my mind. Why would you engage in giving money to a beta product when you weren't 100% sure that you were happy with it? More to the point, why did you just throw money at a beta anyway if you didn't have a huge amount of disposable income? That's insane. There's plenty of other real games that are actually out and established, and you know the ins and outs of because so many people have hammered on it for months and months at a time, that you can give your money to without having to worry too much about where it's going or what's actually going to happen with it. If something is called beta, then you should be treating it as such. And as soon as that label comes off, then you can go full on at that particular title. Then you can say, oi, you had this chance. You had the opportunity to fix things. You didn't fix things, so now I'm going to complain, and now there's where your negative PR comes in. But if you don't want to get involved in something that might not end up being what you are hoping for, then don't give money to beta products. It's the same idea as pre-ordering, isn't it? You're throwing money at something that isn't finished yet, and you have no real information as to whether or not it'll actually be worthwhile in the long run. Just please don't do it. The problem started to arise when people stopped treating beta as beta. This is not just the consumer's fault, but I want people to share responsibility. In many cases, it is not just the fault of one person. There is some shared responsibility. It's not necessarily 50-50. It's not equal. But honestly, I feel that the consumers share some responsibility. The rest of that responsibility is with the companies that have taken the notion of beta and have warped its meaning. Because beta used to mean beta, and now more often than not, it means marketing demo. And that I absolutely hate. This is especially true on consoles, by the way, that really have no way of actually delivering feedback at all. It's like, what are you going to do? Plug in your little Xbox keypad and go to the website in your Xbox? No. The more direct betas on PC have ways of giving that feedback to the developer as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And the less methods you have to do that, the more I would suspect the beta of not being a real beta. Not about taking feedback and balancing and load testing and things like that. It is more about marketing the game to you and just rushing it out a little bit earlier and getting their hands on your money a little bit earlier. Beware of that. Very much so. Do beware. I hope you guys are savvy enough not to engage in that. If you feel that there is the possibility that you will regret giving your money to something, then don't give your money to it. This should be fairly obvious. Now, the last thing that I would say is that early access could potentially cause some problems for some developers. We've already seen with Kickstarter that some devs are unrealistic when it comes to their intentions. They have a plan, they ask for X amount of money is clearly not enough, and then they just can't do anything. You know, Clang is a big example. They raised a bunch of money, and as it turns out, they couldn't finish it, and now it's in limbo. So that $500,000 may just disappear into the ether. Such is the risk of Kickstarter, and time and again I've said, you should treat Kickstarter as if your money is going to vanish. It is a donation, it is a gift, you are not an investor. And the promises are just promises. They are not necessarily legally binding, and until you're willing to bring a class action lawsuit that proves otherwise, you're pretty much damned. Anyway, we've had Kickstarters that just don't have enough funds, and then we've had Kickstarters that have had too many and have vastly increased their scope far beyond what their funding and actual talent allowed them to do, and Double Fine Adventure is looking like that as well. You know, they're looking like they're going to release the first part on early access to make some more money so they can actually finish the damn thing. It's an unhealthy business model, a very unhealthy business model, because you're basically burning yourselves out even earlier. When you have Kickstarter, the trade for the fact that you just got a bunch of money from people is that you also sold them the game a lot cheaper than what you otherwise would have done in most instances. As a direct result, your return is less. Instead of selling, let's just say, 10,000 copies on day one, you actually pre-sold 5,000 of those copies at a cheaper price, so your overall day one sales figures are lower. And that could get even worse with early access, because then you're talking about taking some of your day one sales figures to pay to finish the game, and by the end of it, how much money do you have left? Probably not that much. And then what capital do you have to get onto the next project? What if you don't have capital anymore? It seems like you would burn through those funds far faster by using the early access business model as a matter of course. And that's maybe my biggest concern with it. It's not about consumers getting screwed over, because again, I feel that just having the early access label is enough to know what to avoid. But it is about developers being unrealistic about their long-term financial goals and how they're actually going to sustain their business. That's my biggest worry, and I have a feeling we will see some indies and maybe even some larger companies suffer in the long term as a result of abuse of this particular business model. So yeah, that's my opinion on early access. There you go. Alright, a couple of other things. So, GTA 5. Not playing it. I actually have a copy in the house. It's Chris's. He's currently living with us, and he's playing on the PlayStation 3, and I'm not. So, I'm going to wait. Either I want to play it on a next-gen console, or I want to play it on PC. It's a big open-world game. Supposedly one of the most technologically advanced games ever made. I'd rather play it on hardware that will make it perform better. Simple as that. If it is a grand vision, I would like to experience that vision in the best way possible. I feel that's the way that you can most respect the art form. I'm not desperate to play it. I have plenty of other games, and quite frankly, I'm too bloody busy, so such is the reality of doing this stuff on the internet. I think that pretty much covers everything, honestly, that I want to talk about right now, so thank you very much for watching. I'd like to, of course, remind you that if you want to watch our Dark Heresy role-playing session, that's over on youtube.com/itmejp. Also, another reminder, sub boxes are knackered right now. They're really, really bad. There's a couple of recommended fixes for this that involve changing your settings. One of the most popular is to click on My Subscriptions, then click Manage 32 Subscriptions, select All, and then select Show Only Uploads in Feed. That helps for some people, but not for all. It might be worth trying. If you want to keep track of the stuff on this channel, I tweet everything, I Facebook everything, everything goes on the subreddit, and I also update my channel page several times a day. So all of the playlists on the front page are always fully up to date and exactly what they should be. So if you head over to the channel page, youtube.com/cynicalbrit, you will find everything that I've produced. So if there isn't a video and it's not Sunday, then go to the channel because there's probably one there. Yeah? If I don't have a video out that day, it's very unusual. I produce videos 6 days a week, which is Monday through Saturday. So if you don't know about the video, you don't see it in the sub box, then go to the channel, it's probably there. I do feel, of course, that YouTube is completely screwing things up right now. I feel the sub boxes are the most important thing that they should be working on. Getting the videos to the subscribers is #1. Yeah? That should be the #1 priority. They're making some changes to the comment system, which I quite like, and I'm looking forward to them coming through with that, but if they don't see my videos, they're not going to leave a damn comment, are they? So, yeah, that's a damn disaster, but there you go. Thank you very much for watching, folks. As always, you have been a phenomenal audience, and I will see you next time.
Very good shot. Very good. With your will, we shall drive them out.